Hey everybody, this is Jurius Doctor, and I'm back again with another video for the New Bros. This is the continuation of the ANEW series, looking at a new player's experience through Eve. Here we are where we left off last time with my outfit Frigate. Fit guns up on it, it's ready to go. Basic fitting for this guy is exactly as we left it last time. So we've got 325mm T1 compressed coil guns with antimatter charge in the cannons ready to go. Got extra charge in the hold so that I have something to shoot with. Got ourselves a prop mod, got ourselves a web, damage control, and a civilian repper. Basically everything that Aura has asked us to fit with a little bit extra firepower to add in. Really, we haven't, changed anything about the function of this. There's been no rigging, which we'll get into. It's basically as fit from when they gave it to us. Now, the only thing I haven't done is to include a drone. Now, another thing that's happened in the few days since I've been on to play this character is that the skill queue for this character has run dry. We've run out of things which we're training. So one of the things you want to get into the habit of always doing is that when you log in, you want to see what skills you have that you can train now and which skills need to be increased. So here we have, sorry about that, just changing my list here. Here we have the ability to filter what skills we're looking at. There's a couple of different ways to view this. So you can see the way I'm looking at my character sheet now, I've got a few things compressed. The first of these is that I have hidden my character portrait. So I've collapsed it down so the character portrait only shows up when I have this expanded. Now, rendering the character portrait takes quite a bit of graphics effort from older graphics cards or anything new. If you've got all the settings cranked all the way up, you shouldn't notice it too bad on any newer gaming computer, but there's a lot of new bros that will be playing this on their laptops or older devices, and really it just makes sense not to have this thing open. Plus it loads up your net worth every time you load this thing. It'll try to spool it in. It's just extra processing power that doesn't really need to be wasted for something that just kind of looks pretty. Doesn't have any other obvious use. So most of the time I just hide that. Now, when you look at your skills, you have the ability to see the skill groups. And this might be good for you to look at until you're familiar with the different type of skill groups. So Spaceship Command covers things like how to pilot ships and what ships you can fly. Navigation is things like your ship's ability to move through space and how efficient it is at that. Engineering covers things like energy output, CPU, the things that basically allow your system to operate with energy. Subsystems is for a specific subclass of ships. Subsystems covers the strategic cruisers. So one of the ship types that you can get into is called strategic cruisers. And how strategic cruisers work is that when you get all the way up to the cruisers and you train these cruiser skills to 5, you begin to unlock these tier 2 and tier 3 cruiser sets. So tier 2 cruisers is where you get into specialized ships like logistics cruisers that heal, heavy interdiction cruisers that grab things and hold them down, heavy assault cruisers which basically lay out a beating, and recon ships whose job is basically to be spoopy and sneak around and hold enemies down. The strategic cruisers, however, have the ability to shift their focus to one of several different strengths through 4 different classes of upgrade. So not only is strategic cruisers a skill into itself, you need the individual 4 sets of skills that go underneath for all of the subsystems. That's where the subsystem set comes in. So if you look at all the skills in this set, you can see that each of the races has 4 subsystem skills for strategic cruisers. Then there's armor skills, shield skills. So these are what you call tanking skills, things that help you prevent damage incoming. You have targeting skills, gunnery, missiles, drones, and so on. So as you go through these skill sets, you can see which skills you have and which ones you have the prerequisites for. Now, a couple of the skills that you're going to want to train up right away, and I put this in the in some of my previous videos, specifically the ones on skills and core skills training, are going to be the ones for navigation, engineering, electronic systems, and in a big way, you're going to want to have some basic skills for missiles, gunnery, or drones, whatever your primary weapon system is, and some tanking skills. So let's take a look first at our navigation. So here I have right away some skills that I've trained up a little bit, but I really should increase. And the reason why you're going to want to raise these at some point is because of the fact that each level you gain increases your efficiency for capacitor use when initiating warp by 10%. So you get a 50% reduction just for training this skill up. It's a bit of a longer train, but it means that you have that energy available to you that you would otherwise spend on going into warp. It also means that if you find yourself, being, capacitor neutered by somebody, you have a better shot of getting out rather than ending up empty and not being able to initiate warp. Same thing with high-speed maneuvering. A big reduction in the amount of electricity that your systems use in order to use a micro warp drive. Evasive maneuvering increases your agility by 5% per level. So if you train this up to 5, your ship is 25% more agile. It turns faster, it accelerates faster. It's generally better. Afterburner increases a significant amount of duration, so 5% per level in duration for each cycle of your afterburner. So each time your afterburner cycle runs over, it's going to last 5% longer per level, and it's going to use 10% less capacitor per level. So it's using less energy while it's running. Navigation also controls the output of ship's thrusters, so you get more velocity below warp. So each level of navigation increases the efficiency of afterburner. And then when you train in and you pick up the skill books for fuel conservation and acceleration control, what you get is big reduction in capacitor needs over top of the afterburner, but you also get big reductions, or big bonuses, in output for afterburner micro warp drive speed. So the next ones I'm going to want to pick up are acceleration control and fuel conservation, and I'm going to want to train all of these up to really increase the efficiency of something like a frigate, which is designed to go fast to avoid damage. This is really going to help that speed tank. Now, when we look at engineering, we really want to look at things like your capacitor systems operation, power grid management, CPU management, capacitor management. These all affect how much electricity, how much energy, and how much computing processor your ship has to work with. So these are skills you're going to want to raise right away. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes to buy a couple of skill books and start throwing these into the queue. Now, because I'm subscribing here, this is a paid character, I train at regular speed. As an alpha character, you don't have the ability to add more than 24 hours worth of skills to your queue at any given time, which is why it's doubly important for alpha characters each time you log in to make sure that you have at least the next day's worth of skills in your queue and running. The other thing too is that as an Omega character, you can add an unlimited number of skills to your queue, and it's not uncommon for characters and players that have been around a lot longer to have characters that see 270-day skill queues. Now that might seem very overwhelming to a new player, but a lot of these early skills take an hour to train here, a day there, a couple of days, maybe a few hours for each level. And the more you prioritize getting the faster training skills in there, and the more you'll see those skills start to tick by. And after a while, you're not really going to pay attention to how long it takes something to train. What you're going to start seeing once you have these fundamentals out of the way is that you're going to focus on what is this allowing you to do. And it becomes less of a mental thought about, how far is my character trained along in terms of skills. You can do everything you want to do now. You're just going to be a little bit more efficient at it once your character has a little bit more training. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to pick up a couple of skill books from navigation. I'm going to throw in some basic skills. And one of the other things I'm going to do, because this is an armor ship, and a lot of the Galente ships are, is I'm going to want to pick up armor layering and train that, because armor layering grants a 5% reduction in armor plate mass, which means that I can add armor on with a smaller impact on what adding on that extra mass does to my overall speed. And again, I'm trying to maintain a fairly high speed because this is a frigate. So I'm going to add navigation skills to increase the efficiency and speed of my ship. And I'm going to add armor layering, this one here, to make it so that when I do add on armor, it doesn't slow me down as much. Now, you can see here, I only have 100,000 ISK, but armor layering's a million ISK. I mean, I gotta get 10 times as much money to be able to buy this. And this is where running through missions, running through the new player experience becomes important, and learning how to use your ships becomes important, is because as you go, you'll make money. And as you save money up, you'll be able to start buying skill books, which increase your ability to train additional skills. So let's see if I can buy acceleration control. Okay, there we have a much more affordable skill book that I can buy right away. And here we go again. So now between these two skill books, I'm looking at 70,000 ISK. I have 100,000 ISK. I'm going to buy these right away and start training. But it looks like both of the nearest skill books are a little ways away. Now, I could spend this money and then fly over there and grab these, but at this point in time, there are other skills I can throw into my queue. I will buy these, I will go get them, but for now, because this is a little farther away than the mission Aura wants me to continue with, I'm going to hold on to that money for now, and I'll just earmark it for buying these two skill books. So what I like to do is I like to sort my skills from lowest to highest training time. And here I've got basically 4 days of training time in there. I'm going to add a couple more now from engineering. Now, thermodynamics is useful because when you overheat your modules, your ship will take less damage, and the modules will take less. Your modules will take less damage on the ship from overheated modules. Because what happens when you overheat something like your afterburner or your weapons is that nearby modules will also take radiant, surrounding heat damage, as well as the things which are being damaged by being overheated. So you can get an extra performance push from modules by overheating them, but they degrade when you do that, and they will burn out, and then you have to go and get them fixed. When they're burned out, they're of no use to you. You can't use them, you can't turn them on, they stop functioning for you. So if you burn out all your damage dealing modules, then mid-fight you lose your ability to deal damage. Training up the thermodynamic skill allows you to reduce the impact of that heat, not turn it off, but just significantly reduce it for short periods of times in such a way that you can overheat for a few cycles and not entirely burn out that module. Now, thermodynamics is a much longer training time than some of these other skills. But I'm still going to train up these other skills a little bit higher. I want these to at least 4. So capacitor management, electronics upgrades, weapon upgrades, all of the skills in this group, I want to train up to at least a 4. So there I have it. I've trained these skills to 4, and you'll notice that a couple of additional skills have become visible. Additional advanced weapons upgrades, capacitor emission systems, and energy pulse weapons. Energy pulse weapons is things like smart bombs. Advanced weapon upgrades increases the effectiveness of all turrets and launchers by an additional 2% per level. And capacitor emission systems allows you to send energy and take energy from other ships. You'll notice here, though, that weapon upgrades has a significant advantage to my ability to deal damage to other ships, something that's important for a combat ship, by adding 5% per level in terms of or reducing the use of weapons capacitor by 5% per level. So there we go. I've got the next 2 weeks of training ready to go in my ship. I can just let that train in the background. I don't need to think about it anymore. I can just play the game. I can run through the rest of the missions Aura is giving me, or find missions that I want to do. I can go and engage in other activities, and I can just let this train in the background. And when it runs out, I just add more skills. All right, so let's get going with where we left off with Aura. So the next thing she wants us to do is to locate activities suited to my interest. And for that, she wants me to open the agency window. So the agency window is, it's a good starting place to look at for what are the things that you can do to start in the world of EVE Online around you. So if you think about something like playing World of Warcraft or other MMOs, they often have like a quest finder or your local quest map. You know, where are the question marks on the map? Who are the people that you need to run back to and give them something to complete a quest? Somebody who originally started off as having an exclamation mark above their head. You know, you're walking along, you see an NPC, he's got an exclamation mark above his head, usually bright yellow, says, hey, I have a quest for you. You go over, you talk to him, and he says, hey, I need you to go, kill a dozen Arctic seals and bring me their pelts. And then while he's waiting for you to come back, he's got a little golden question mark above his head. The agency is the closest approximation of that we have in EVE Online, but instead of a whole bunch of gold exclamation marks, we have these different types of indicators, basically pinpointing where they are respective to you in space, in terms of how many systems away they are, and what types of activities they are. So there's the business career path. So this is a chain of events or a chain of missions that will gain you conditional rewards in terms of how much NPCs like you from the business path, and how much they will pay you when you successfully complete things. So the more esteem you build with a particular group, the more they will pay you and the better you are liked, and the more likely they are to come to your aid or offer you work, and the better the quality of the work that you can find. That goes for business, for military, for exploration, security missions like protecting space against pirates. The industry career path is your ability to grow and build your understanding of building things. Then there are the Secrets of the Abyss. This is a short-term event ending in 6 days, which is aimed at people who can fly cruisers and take those cruisers into very dangerous space. Then there are also nearby combat sites. So combat sites are sites where you have the opportunity to engage in combat in the space you live in. And that might be, killing nearby rats. That might be engaging with pirates who are being real scallywags. And it might be taking on drug runners or drug producers or different chemical cartels. You also have the ability to engage in mining, so to go to a nearby asteroid belt and mine some goods. And now each of the times that you click on one of these different activities, it will show you where the activity is, what type of engagement it is, what you're requested to do, what's required to do the job, and what kind of threats exist. And resource wars are a type of internecine warfare happening over resources, where you have the opportunity to go to a location, mine a valuable amount of ore, or to assist in mining efforts, whether it be defending those efforts or assisting with the mining. But basically, you're there to help out, and you're being paid a healthy reward and benefits and standings for helping out, for being a mercenary capsuleer. But to get you started, Aura wants you to go into the combat career path. Now, this is a new part of the new player experience. This has just recently been launched to Tranquility, or the current play servers, the production server as it is. And this play set is a series of missions designed to get you familiar with how to engage in combat. And before we continue with the new player experience and go and engage in some of the activities that the general may need to call us in for, they want to make sure that we know what we're doing. So they're going to run us through this new series of missions to get us on our way. So the first thing we're going to do is begin with choosing a mission that we can engage, and we're going to activate it. So the first thing we need to do is navigate to our target. And the next thing it wants us to do is to undock. So we're going to undock. And from here, we're going to go engage the targets that Aura tells us to. Okay, and here we have warp to the training site. So we just click warp to location. Our ship will automatically pilot in the direction of the anomaly where this training will take place. We can see our ship's got a lovely little warp animation where the guns hunker down and the side pylons pull in. These nacelles get pulled in from the side. And we warp towards the location where we will be expected to fight. And here we are. We've landed at a broken drifter structure, or sleeper structure, and we have a couple of them here to engage. So we're going to orbit one of the enemies, lock them up, and destroy them. And here I've already targeted the first one. So once he's within 10 kilometers, I can web him, and then I can start shooting at him. Now the advantage of a web is that it slows my target down by a significant amount, allowing my guns to track better. And you can see that with the 3 guns I've upfitted here, I'm just murdering these guys. Like, this is super fast. Now, part of having had the advantage of getting through these kills so quickly with the extra guns that I've fit, for, not an insubstantial cost, but it really does prove a big difference in power, is that I can then go back and I can just scoop these goods. So survivability is increased by being able to destroy your enemies more quickly. Firepower isn't always the winning factor. If I had been outnumbered on the field, or they had support, I likely wouldn't have won that engagement. There's a lot of bad things that can go wrong, and there's always bigger fish. But hey, I killed some baddies. I got to see this really cool wreck. I can explore it and read about it if I wanted to know more about this. I can show info. And here we have the remnants of the sleeper enclave are a stark reminder of the harshness of space. And you'll find that most things in EVE Online have a description. So if you right-click and you say show info on something, you'll often find that there's interesting bits of lore about every structure in EVE, every little thing that you can pick up and examine. And the real advantage of having a game with this much depth is that it really adds to player immersion. It really makes it feel full. Here we have the remnants of a destroyed ship. Perhaps with the proper equipment, you could salvage something of it. That's a hint that if you get yourself a salvaging laser, you can glean things of value from the enemies that you destroy. So now that we've completed our first activity, we can see we've completed our first mission, open the agency and click on the combat career path to select another one.
Skill training completed.
Now right away, we've gotten some sort of redeemable reward for having done that. We've had a spaceship command skill train through, and we have additional seek and destroy missions that we can take on, or we can move on to range and fall off, which will teach us about maintaining proper distance for the weapons that we're using. But I'm going to complete these first two seek and destroy missions, and before I go moving on to the additional ones. Now, to avoid basically shitting up the microphone here too much, I'm going to shut up for the next little bit of this, and you can just watch how this plays out.
Warp drive active.
So you can see here in my redeeming items, I have Glinted Frigate and Small Hybrid Turret, which I have not yet picked up. Now, I don't know if you saw what happened there, but while I was webbing the target, it wasn't able to move. And while it was a battleship, my weapons should have been doing a lot more damage. But the problem was I kept missing them. I kept getting these messages that would pop up saying, your group of weapons has missed the target completely. And the reason for that is that my turrets have a tracking of about 98.18. And what that means is that's a measure of maths saying that your guns only turn so fast. And I was going 300 meters a second. So think about traveling a third of a kilometer or an eighth of a mile a second. You're going really, really fast. Now, if I slowed that down a bit, if I started turning down my velocity, if I'm not turning around this target so fast that my guns can't track it, by slowing down, my weapons being to be able to hit him. And when those heavy hits that I'm throwing out are finally able to connect because my rotation around him has slowed enough that my guns can track his hull, then the damage ramps up. And you saw how quickly he died once I slowed down. This is something that you have to be aware of when you're orbiting another target, is that there's a sweet spot where your turrets, if you're using guns, will be able to orbit the target and keep track of them and deal damage, but you want to be going faster than the other guy's guns. Or if your guns reach out farther, you want to be hitting from farther away than maybe the other guy's guns who don't have the same fall off or optimal ranges, meaning they don't hit as far. And the real advantage here is that if you have guns that reach a long way and can track the enemy, and the other guy has really slow guns that only deal a lot of damage when he's up close, you end up kind of like the tall guy with the hand on the top of the short guy's head, where he can swing away with his little arms, but he's not going to hit you, whereas you can just pound on him all day. But if he gets in close to you, you're in a world of hurt. So now we go back to the career path. We can see we've been given another gift, and we continue on to the next.
Warp drive active.
Now, this ship hasn't taken hardly any damage at all. I'm barely into shields. So this is a very survivable little frigate. The Incursus is fantastic. I can still add drones to this, which I haven't even thrown in my drone bay. Drones is another weapon system in addition to missiles and turrets, and drones are basically just like what they are today. They are semi-autonomous vessels, little automatons you can send out that will deal damage to your enemies on your behalf. Now, because this particular ship is so survivable, by going slow enough that my guns can track, I don't really need to worry about these guys coming in on me. Once they're within the 10-kilometer range of my web and within the 11 kilometers of my fall off, or ideally if they get in under 6,000 meters, I'm able to deal a lot of damage to them. So it's actually in my advantage to let them come to me. But if I see my shield start to evaporate, then I know I'm in trouble. But at this point, I can basically sit still. I'm moving very slowly, but I don't need to be going very fast to take these guys on. And there we go. So that's another mission done. drifted too far away here. So I'm going to go this way. Easier to do if I'm moving quickly. All right, so I don't see any more wrecks here that stand out to me as having contents that I want. Now I can continue on to my next mission. Now remember how I was lamenting only having 100,000 ISK before? I've basically doubled that in a very short amount of time. So that 1 million ISK skill book doesn't seem so expensive anymore.
Warp drive active.
Now, one thing you're going to want to do regularly is reload your ammunition before you start getting into a fight. Now here we have a situation where my guns don't reach very far, but he's able to hit me from way back there. So my next step is we're going to have to upgrade my ship, so we're going to dock at a station.
Warp drive active. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Alright, so Aura is asking me to retrieve the items from my redeemables. I've done that now. I can also offload any loot from my ship. Alright, and now the next path in the combat path can be opened.
Skill training completed.
One thing I really like is the fact that they've added the next and back buttons for these precursor missions. When I was trying these on CC or Singularity, not all of those features were working the way they should, and it was a real problem to not be able to advance because you hadn't jumped through some arbitrary hoop. Or if you jumped through them ahead of order. So if you're somebody who's perceptive and keen, you don't want to be stuck in the position of having to jump through the arbitrary order of conditions that have been set up by the developer if you know what to do next or if you've intuited what needs to be done. So here you can see what I've done is I've increased my orbit path around this guy, and the reason for that is I want to be moving away from the path of his guns. I don't want to be flying directly at him because I'll take more damage that way. What I'm going to do is move around him, and then once I get within range, I'm going to slow down, web him down, and while I'm adjusting for speed, start shooting at him. And there we go. Single target destroyed. That's all she needed from me.
Warp drive active.
So you see how I'm having to hunt to find my targets? I can actually hold down the Alt key and click or right click and say look at, and it will point me at my enemy directly. There we go. Those guys are done. Off to my next target. So now we're at the tracking lesson, the same thing I was just talking about with how quickly your guns turn and track targets. Larger vessels are not always more effective in ship-to-ship combat. The smaller the ship is, the more difficult it will be for the bigger turrets to track it. It's kind of like a really big, beefy, super, jacked up bodybuilder type dude trying to hit Bruce Lee. Those big, cumbersome muscles are great for lifting a lot of weight and looking really tough. but they don't move so fast. You look at somebody like Bruce Lee, who's whipcord thin. He moves fast because that's how he's built his muscle. That's how he's built his tone on speed and agility. So here we're going to see an example where looking at this ship combat, we're going to see an example of a slower ship versus a smaller one. And don't be fooled. Some big guys move really fast.
Skill training completed. Warp drive active.
All right, out of the frying pan and into the fire. So here we have, we've dropped out of warp directly in the middle of a bit of a firefight. But we managed to make quick work of these guys because our guns track really fast, they hit hard, and we orbit quickly, and we're able to slow them down and hold them down while we shoot them. And off we go to the next mission.
Warp drive active. Warp drive active.
Okay, so this is an interesting site. We have a fast-moving hostile. So this is another frigate who's going to engage us. And we also have this weird spatial rift. So it says there's a natural phenomena that will hurt those who come too close to faraway places. Let's test that theory and see what happens when we get close.
Skill training completed.
So there we go. I've approached the spatial rift, but nothing happened. Now it says I want to dock at a station, so I'm adding stations to this overview tab that I have, and I'm going to pick one to warp back to. So I'm going to go back to the road and shipyards I was just at.
Drive active.
Now it's saying it's time to upgrade our ship, which tells me that Aura is going to give us something new.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted. Skill training completed.
So now we've got a new ship and a different set of weapons. Now, this ship that I'm flying, the Incursus, is still good. It's still a valid ship, but they've given us a different one to fly. So we're going to assemble that one. Now, when it comes to applying damage, one of the things that we want to look at adding to our skill queue, in addition to engineering, navigation, and armor skills, is our command of our turrets, the things that let us deal damage. At this point, playing through the new player experience, we're using primarily and almost exclusively guns. You'll see drones and missiles come in later, but for now, we're just going to focus on our guns. And a number of these skills help us by increasing either the rate of fire, so how quickly the weapons push out ammunition, the type of or level of energy use of the weapons, how much damage the weapons do, and how much tracking they have, so how quickly they can track. So I'm going to add in a bunch more skills here to fill this out to a 30-day skill queue by building up these other skills. And there we go. As said, about 30 days. Actually, it's about 35 days of training. So first I'm going to assemble my new Tristan. I'm going to give it a name so that somebody doesn't know it's immediately me. I'm going to make it my active ship. And I'm going to begin fitting it up. I'm going to reprocess the scrap material that I have and see how much I can sell it for. So here what I'm going to get is 2,750 tritanium. So here I can see that locally, the nearest available price being sold anywhere is about 7 ISK per tritanium. So if I'm selling 7 ISK for all 2,750 of this tritanium, I could expect to make just under 20,000 ISK. But if I were to buy metal scraps, they're worth 1,350 ISK each times 11. So we're looking at here $14,850 instead. So yes, I'm going to make more money by refining them. And if I later train up the scrap metal reprocessing skill, I'll get an even higher return. Now, one of the advantages of the Tristan is that it has a fairly sizable drone bay. And if I want to fly a ship with drones, I'm going to want to make sure that I fit it out with them. Now, right now, this is just a basic frigate. I haven't put a whole lot else extra on it. But we can see that in the course of the last few missions and bounty prizes, which pay out every 20 minutes for the creatures I've killed, rats, pirates, NPCs, whatever you want to call them, I've made about 500,000 ISK in just under 45 minutes. You know, between 20 and 45 minutes, you're making pretty decent money to get started. I mean, this is not bad for a new player without having any other training or any other, modes of income coming in. We've managed to get started pretty well. Now, I don't want to go immediately spending the rest of the money that I have on fitting this ship out. So what I'm going to do is break down my other ship and sell it off for parts. Now, my Incursus, it can be sold as well, and it'll sell for 750,000 ISK. But I'm going to sell it right away for an immediate payout. And I'm going to do the same I'm going to do the same for these railguns. So there we have it, almost a million ESC already.
Warp drive active.
Now, one thing you'll see is that blasters have a much better tracking, but a much shorter range. So this is what you would typically call a brawling scenario. Now, this malfunctioning station is generating a harmful radiation field. Use your propulsion module to close the distance and destroy the station before your ship's defenses are compromised. This task will complete on the station's destruction. So we're going to target the unstable wreckage, and we're going to burn straight towards it. And we're going to watch the damage that we take from the radiation field. And as we begin taking damage, once this starts getting low, we're going to turn on our armor repair. Now, because of the shorter range of these electron blasters, we have to be really close. Mission accomplished.
Warp drive active.
The Tristan here, also called the Fat Man or Little Man, or Hyper Kittens, kitten because kind of looks like a cat, is a very, very fast ship, and it has a halfway decent passive shield regeneration, which means it repairs its shields on its own. In fact, shields passively repair over time. You can increase that shield repair rate by using a shield booster, but typically they work pretty well all on their own. And there are very aggressively shield tank ships that rely very heavily on passive regen, meaning that the ship's shields will automatically recover faster than incoming damage, but it can be risky to fit them that way. The reason for that is that you can become capacitor neutralized very easily, and there's a number of counters for that kind of defense. And in this case, I'm not even going to try avoiding these guys. I'm just going to burn right past them. So what Aura's telling me is that I have to get in and kill these guys quickly before they warp out, and that they will warp out every 5 minutes. Now, because my ship is moving pretty quickly, I'm going to want to get it in there. And I'm going to want to take advantage of my improved speed and tracking by hammering these guys as fast as I can get on top of them. All right, there we have it. And as you move down this combat career path skill tree, you can move on and learn additional skills as you go. So here Aura's telling us to dock at a station, and she's giving us a few different stations to choose from. There's Galente stations, Caldari stations. I'm going to go with the road and shipyards.
Warp drive active. Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
So here's one of those arbitrary triggers I was talking about earlier that bugged me about the new player experience, which I had assumed were fixed in terms of things that you need to jump through. It wants us to fit the things it's already given us onto the ship. So in order to let Aura get us past this step, we have to unload the ammunition, unload the guns, and reload the ammunition.
Completed. Warp drive active. Warp drive active.
So what we've done here is we've gotten most of the way through that combat mission tree. And already we've happily passed more than 1,000,000 ISK, which is quite a bit farther along than we were. 9 times farther, actually, than when we rejoined this character for today's fun. So money in EVE comes as long as you're doing things, and as long as you learn to do things in a way that generates a profit. Between bounty payments, mission rewards, quests, essentially, you're able to receive enough payment to live on as long as you're careful and as long as you're not being exorbitant. And as you learn the game and as you grow, you will gain extra income. We went from having a market balance of just a little over 100,000 ISK in our wallet to having a liquid of 1,033,069 ISK. You know, that's not bad. That's good progress for a brand new character, you know, on a brand new account, going as of, you know, a couple of days ago. And we already have skills, training in our queue. We've already, you know, trained at least 5 skills out of our queue tonight. We're going to continue to train overnight and into the next, 30 days. So really, I can continue to play this character as is, going through the agency missions until I either get bored or I can decide to continue with the NPE. And really, you should try your hand at all of these. Maybe not Secrets of the Abyss, that's a little bit more advanced if you're a new player, but definitely play through some of these options. And I look forward to hearing from you about your adventures. If you have any comments, throw them in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, let me know. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down, and please give a comment so I know why you didn't like it. And from there, I will take your feedback and try to make this experience wonderful for everybody. If you think that this video would benefit any of your friends, or if you think you have any friends that would like to play EVE Online, there's actually a link in the description for my channel. There's a refer friend code there. If you use it, anybody who joins the game will get 250,000 skill points to start with, which will help bump your character a little bit further ahead, and it immediately lets me know when you've joined the game. So if you'd like to be friends with me and you want to start a new character or you want to get going, you get an immediate ring on my doorbell and I will greet you in the game. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Jurius Doctor. Feel free to throw your comments below, and I hope you have a great night. You can look forward to more of that video series, the new player experience here in the near future. I do have some other videos coming out right away. Talk to you soon. Cheers.